This is a quick tutorial on creating pivot table charts. You can use pivot table charts to summarize your data visually, and in this video I'll show you how it only takes a few clicks to get the chart you want. For this tutorial, we'll use an Excel datasheet named Allen's Coffee. This worksheet contains sales for Allen's coffee shops for the months of September through December for 80 stores in several states. Notice the column names: store number, state, manager, month, drinks, food, and total. We'll create a series of useful charts using this data. A link to the file is below, so you can immediately practice what you learn here. Now we're ready to use the data to create some pivot tables. Let's do it. As we did in our previous example, we're going to turn this data into an Excel table simply by clicking on one of the items in the data and choosing Insert Table, and it shows you the range where it's going to use the data. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to name this table Coffee. Now we do that because it makes changing, if we change the data or add to it or anything like that, then it's going to make it easier to refresh the data. So now that we have the data created, we can create some pivot charts. The way you do that is you click on the Insert tab on your ribbon above, and you'll notice that there is an item called Pivot Charts. Now there's several ways to create pivot charts. You can start by creating a pivot table and then choose create a pivot chart, or you can just go right here to Pivot Chart. So we're going to click on that, and notice here you can either choose Pivot Chart or Pivot Chart and Pivot Table. It really doesn't matter which one you choose. We're going to choose Pivot Chart, and it's asking for a table name, so we're going to give it Coffee. That's the table name we're going to use. And we're going to create that in a new worksheet, so make sure that's chosen, and click OK. Now, we come up with some blank areas here. Here's a blank chart and also a blank pivot table. And you should now be familiar, hopefully, with the pivot chart fields. These are the fields in our data set, and these are the boxes where we can put any of these fields to create the kind of chart we want. Well, we certainly want to look at total, so I'm going to drag total down into values, and we have a little chart. Not a very interesting one, but there's a little chart. Maybe we want to look at that chart by month, so I'm going to drag month down into this axis, and now we have a pretty decent little chart here that's showing us how our sales have grown from September to December. We can change that. Maybe we don't want to look at month. Maybe we want to look at it by state. So I moved state down here into axis instead of month, and now we have the data by state. Now once you have a chart here, I'm going to show you a number of things you can do with this, but one of the things you can do is within the chart, do a right click and choose Change Chart Type, and maybe I want to look at this as a bar chart instead. I simply choose bar and OK. I can change the size of this chart so it makes it, maybe we can see it easier. And so let's look at a few other things we can do with this data. All right, let's turn this back into a month chart, month by sum. And I'm going to right click on the chart and say Change Chart Type and change it back to a column chart. Now, let's say we want to look at this just a little bit differently. Instead of the total, we want to compare drinks and food. So I'm going to get rid of total, then bring down food and drinks into values. And now we have a chart that shows month, and within each month we have food and drinks. We can see how that compares on a monthly basis. So that's another thing you can do. Again, you can sort of slice and dice this in many different ways. I'm going to show you another thing you can do. Go up here, back up here to Pivot Chart Tools, and notice there's something called a slicer. So I'm going to insert slicer and move it over here to out of the way. And I'm going to say I want to slice this by state. So choose state, OK. Now, again, just move it over here. What this does is currently we're looking at all the states information just as we were. But I can choose just one state. For instance, click on California, and now it's only looking at the California data. Or hold down the Control key and choose a couple of more states. And now I'm looking at 3 states together. So the slicer gives you a way to go through here and just choose a few states at a time, or a combination of states. Or if you want to, click back on the clear filter item and we're back to where it was. If you don't want the slicer, just do a right click on it, cut it, get it out of there, and now we're back to where we were. Of course, we can do a similar thing by clicking on state and moving it to filters, and then we have this pull down menu, and I can either select multiple items here. I can double click on all, get rid of all of them, then choose 3 maybe, and OK, and again the data is reflecting only those that we've chosen. Or go back to the filter, click back on all, and now I'm back to where I was. I'm going to get rid of state right now and show you some other things you could do with this graph. Similar to other Excel charts, I could click on the little plus key up here and see that I could choose a chart title, for instance. I'm going to go here and add this title called Coffee Sales. And of course, now that I have that up there, I can do several things with it. If I right click on it, I can do things like I can fill the background with some other color. I can choose a style. Maybe I want to use this style here, or I can also choose an outline. Maybe I want a heavy outline around my title, and maybe I want to have it green, some weird colors here. Other things I could do is if I select the text here and double click, I get my normal editing dialog here where I can choose a size. For, well, I only had cells chosen, but let me choose all of it and all the text and choose 32. And again, I can choose a color for the text. Let's choose orange, for instance. And so I can edit this any way that I want. Add the E in here for coffee. Okay, so that allows you to choose a number of things within your chart area. You'll notice here a new format chart area came up. I'm going to close that down. Again, I'm going to just click on plus just to show you some other things you do. We could also add axes titles. So if I want to add an axis title over here, again, you have the same kind of things that you can do. So you can create and add to or get rid of anything you want on your chart simply by using the same kinds of things you would use for a normal Excel chart. Another important piece of information, and the reason we made our table, our data into a table to begin with, is that if we have to go back and change something, so I'm going to go back to my data, and this 125 up here, I'm just going to make it a very large number so that we can see some change. So I'm going to make that into a very large number. Go back to my sheet, but nothing has changed so far. But because we created that as a table, if I add things to the table, subtract things, change things, I can easily go back to my pivot chart analyses option and then choose refresh. And now watch, when I refresh, I see some changes. So it changed my chart according to the changes that were made in that data sheet. So make sure that you work from a table rather than from raw data. It will save you headaches in the long run. Okay, finally, let's create one other chart. I'm going to take food and drinks out of here and change this back to total sales. Now what I want to do now is I'm going to change this chart type by doing a right click, change chart type, and I'm going to change it into a pie chart. We haven't seen a pie chart yet. So here we have a pie chart, and again we have our various slices here. Not a big deal, but what I want to do is also show you that you can choose various types of pie charts. So again, I'm going to change chart type, but this time I'm going to change it to like a three-dimensional chart type. So we can see now that we have somewhat of a three-dimensional chart. I can change this back to a bar chart, and again right click, change chart type, and change it into again something like a three-dimensional bar chart. You have to be a little bit careful with these because some of these charts are hard to read, so I would pick and choose and only choose bar types that makes makes a little bit more sense than just something that looks fancy. So there you have it, some various ways that you can create charts, manipulate them, make them look the way you want to have them look for any presentation that you want. This is Alan Elliott. Thanks for watching this tutorial. If you got something out of it, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in a future tech tutorial.